Hello, and welcome to NAFA's June edition of the Advisor Ambassador Program. My name is Zach Hewells, and I work in the Membership and Marketing Department at the NAFA Home Office. We have a great speaker for you today, Robert Clark. Robert is a member from NAFA, California, and today Robert will be presenting Optimize Your Time and Cash Flow. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into the chat feature on Zoom, or if you'd like, you can ask them at the end. I'll let our featured speaker take things over from here, though. So welcome, Robert. We're glad to have you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Zach. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I just want to make sure I share my screen accurately. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Beautiful.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me. For those who don't know, my name is Robert Clark. I am on the NAFA Los Angeles board as the programs chair and YAP chair here locally in Los Angeles. Been a long time supporting member of NAFA. I work for Peterson International Underwriters. We're a Lloyd's cover holder, and I'm the West Coast RVP. So I get to hang out in all the fun and warm states, but that's probably just my opinion. A little bit about me, because we're talking about optimized time and cash flow. And it was really funny when they asked me to be the person talking about optimal time and cash flow, because, you know, in many ways, I'm not even there yet. And I'm sure many of us can relate to that. We never feel like we are totally there. But a little bit about me, you know, I enjoy all the regular things any 30-year-old millennial would. Golfing. I take my stab at social media and being an influencer there. You'll see me at a couple NAFA events presenting awards, as well as gala and charity events with my girlfriend, and usually those are with industry folks that we know. I'm a huge action sports advocate, so motocross, mountain biking, you know, and then your basketball, golf, all those things. And then you'll see a picture of me and my dad, and obviously you might not recognize me with the bowl haircut, but that is me at, let's see, 96, 7 years old. And for those who can see it on their screen, you'll notice my dad has a basketball court for a haircut. So he is pure shaved bald. And what many don't know is that it wasn't a preferable haircut. It was from undergoing chemotherapy. And my dad lived with cancer for 20 years. Finally passing away when I was 20 years old. And so that's a lot of why I'm in the insurance industry today. That's why I love what I do. And so as it relates to time and cash flow, those are also really important things. And cash flow is something I talk about daily around disability insurance and income protection. So I'm excited to jump in to what we have here today. The first thing I kind of want to set the stage with is time and cash flow. These are basic human needs, right? At some point, you know, God's money, gold, silver, then turned into the US dollar. And it was essentially a world was created where we needed this financial economy in order to survive, in order to pay for a place to live, in order to buy food to eat. And the same with time, right? If our cash flow is up here, but our time is down here, we tend to not be very happy with ourselves. And so here is the fundamental piece of time and cash flow, is that they are basic human needs. And so if you're not doing this well, if you don't have your own optimal definition of time and cash flow, you tend to feel stressed. You're overwhelmed, right? You're always on edge. You're frustrated, you're insecure, and that conveys to your clients. And so that's why it's really important for us to start with defining our own time and cash flow, because a lot of the times this is what we're helping clients with as well. If you succeed in these categories, then you come off as confident, as whole, as infinite. That way when a client tells you no, you don't feel personally hurt, right? You know that your own financial means and your time with the ones you love is well cared for and done by design. So again, optimal time and cash flow. The idea of optimal, you know, when asked to present this, I would have conveyed my definition of optimal for time and cash flow. But that's not to say that my definition is the same as yours, is the same as, my mother's optimal time and cash flow. Everyone has a different perspective of these two basic human needs. And so the idea of optimizing is to make the best or most effective use of situation, opportunity, resource, whatever you have available. So a lot of this is about what you define as optimal. And this is a critical piece of the pie. Everyone is trying to chase someone else's version of optimal, right? If we look at a person earning $1 million a year, we think they have optimal cash flow. They probably do too. But what you might find is that their time is so limited that no longer is $1 million a year of cash flow an optimal level for you. So one of the famous speakers all around the NAFA circuit, I actually met Zelfi through NAFA, and so that's why I love being in this community of like-minded advisors. But one of the things he often references is, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it with amazing accuracy. So our first step is defining, how do we interpret something like optimal time and cash flow? And so for the first exercise in this presentation, I really wanted to dig deep and spend time on, what is your optimal definition of time and cash flow? Write down 3 things you want in your life as it relates to these two categories. Okay, so a couple examples would be, I earn $20,000 per month. I have time to coach my daughter's basketball team. I want to be fully present with my family at least 3 hours per day. I want to have 5 hours of interrupted personal time each week so I can maybe swing some sticks around and realize how bad I am at golf. Or maybe you have an entire asset goal. Maybe you have retirement in your focus, and you want to have $6 million worth of income producing assets. Write down 3 things that would define your optimal time and cash flow. Okay, so I'm guessing at least you have your mind flowing. You know what kind of 3 categories those are. I want you to pay attention to which ones are time-oriented and which ones are cash flow-oriented, because you could think you want all the cash flow in the world, but if you wrote down 2 or 3 things that were time-oriented, clearly that's more important for your spirit, your heart, and your mind. And so be thinking about that as you're envying other people's situations. Now, the second part of this is a lot of fun. This is something that I've taken part of for my entire time here in the insurance industry. And that's, if we think about our own personal goals, we tend to feel like we're the only people that want to go out and accomplish that. The awesome part about this industry are that there's at least 1 or 2 others out there that have identical goals to you. And so as you think about what are those things that you want as it relates to time and cash flow, I would always be scanning the horizons for other people who replicate that ideal lifestyle that you're thinking about. So our next exercise will help you dig into this a little bit more. But essentially, once you think of these individuals, you want to try and surround yourself by them as much as possible. You don't have to be next to them. You don't have to have lunch with them once a week. I mentioned Zelfi Taylor, and I think he has a wonderful mission that he's serving, and I always see him spending time with his daughters, but this is all through social media. And so I kind of get my fulfillment of understanding what goes on in his world, what are some of the sacrifices he's making to live the life he's living. I never ask Zelfi for time. It's just something I'm paying attention to and learning from. We do not have to recreate the wheel and invent our own magical plan from thin air. We just have to find the other people living that life and try and bring ourselves into their atmosphere. And another great thing that I love about NAFA, that's where I met Zelfi. That if it had not been for NAFA, I would never know he's out there speaking and doing all the things that I one day hope to do at his caliber. But when you go to these NAFA events, these are highly experienced, and very high integrity professionals, and they are always willing to lend a hand when they see a newcomer, especially a young advisor, coming up in the industry. They want to find a way to positively impact you and your business. So exercise 2 would just be to write down 3 people that you envy for their time and cash flow, right? Whether that's their lifestyle, maybe they coach their kids' sports teams, or maybe they've knocked it out of the park professionally. I just want you to be cognizant of those 3 people and really think about how can you really scoop up into their world, whether that's meeting personally, following them on social media, or maybe just trading some emails with them to learn about their mindset and some of the things that they did early on in their career. Once you have those 3 people, it's really, really, really important to not just think about those people once, to not just think about these goals once, but you have to create the plan, and you have to create a metric that will allow you to see where are you as it relates to accomplishing that plan. Once you start taking incremental steps against this plan, it is very important to take a moment and reflect on what have I accomplished, what am I working towards, and how does that make me feel? If there's anything that I've learned over my last 6 years, it's that I would write goals down, and if I look at some goals from 5 years ago, it would be so clear that those specific goals would no longer serve me where I am today. Things have changed. You realize you want different things, whether that's more time or more cash flow. And so it's always evolving. So it's really important to, as you write these down and as you measure your results against them, to be reflecting on, okay, I'm at this level so far, I'm almost there. How am I feeling? Is this something that I want to pursue further, or are we getting to a point where now priority B is a little bit more important? So I really want you to think about this. The one thing that has made all the difference in my life and my business, and especially as it relates to time and cash flow, is finding accountability. This is a great opportunity for you to find someone. They could be inside insurance, but for me personally, I have a full-time accountability partner. We meet once a week, and he owns a business out here locally in Santa Clarita, California. We have 2 totally different business models, 2 totally different purposes we're serving, but each week we get together, we write about 5 to 6 homework agenda items per week. Any item we do not get done that week is a $100 bonus to the other person. That means if we miss a goal, it's $100. If we miss 2 goals, it's $200. You don't want that week. But if you miss a goal, you are literally handing over a $100 bill. And generally they want large bills because it feels that much sweeter. But we're there to help each other grow and to push each other into doing certain things. I cannot tell you how many times I am wrapping up, 80% of my homework items the night before we're meeting. It's just because these things get pushed off. They don't feel important. So you have to create this plan. You have to know your goals. You have to measure against what's the next successful step, and then reflect and hold yourself accountable to accomplishing whatever you feel is the optimal time and cash flow in your life. There you go. I already talked about the exercise. Think about someone that you can identify as an accountability partner locally. I think it's a great opportunity to find a business owner, find another young entrepreneur in your community who maybe you see at the gym. That's how me and this other individual met. We're both at the gym every morning at 5 a.m. and we're like, man, this person must be a go-getter. I would love to sit down and find a way that we can help each other. So identify an accountability partner, create a metric for each goal, and then of course plan your increments and hold each other accountable. That would be exercise 3. Now, a couple useful books that really changed my perspective and my outlook on time and cash flow. One being the 10X Rule by Mr. Grant Cardone. That one probably just flipped my mindset on its head. 5, 6 years ago when I first read it. It's really the idea of setting your goals 10 times above what you think they currently need to be, and then creating a plan based on that 10x number. If you work that plan, there's a pretty good chance that you'll hit your original goal. E-Myth by Michael Gerber, this is a famous one for all business owners, and it's ideally setting up the systems and processes that your businesses need, so you're no longer just self-employed, but you're an actual business owner. And this is something to be cognizant of as you're building your practices. And then, of course, the Cashflow quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Again, going from self-employed to business owner or to investor, or if you're talking to other employees. The reason I bring these books up is because a lot of our clients have internal false beliefs that tend to fall into one of these categories. Either they're thinking too small and we need to help them get out of a hole, or they are overworked, don't have the right time and cash flow, and realize it's a lack of systems, not a lack of hard work. Or in the third example, they are sourcing their income from the wrong cash flow quadrant, and they are only trading their time for money, which we know is not a recipe for success as a business owner. And so I think with each of these 3 books, I highly encourage you to read them and pick them up if you don't currently own them, or go grab them at a library. But these are things that are not only beneficial for us to know, but it's also beneficial for us to be able to teach and advise certain clients on these 3 subjects. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here on today's presentation. I would love to answer any questions if we have any of them out in the audience.
Does anybody have any questions? Also, Robert, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I got my 3 things right here, by the way. I'm ready to go on these.
I love it. I love it, Zach. Good job. Well, if anyone has follow-up questions in the meantime, I look forward to being engaged with the group, and really thank you all for joining me.
Thank you so much. I guess this would conclude for today. And if anybody has any questions, further questions about the program or the certificates, feel free to reach out to me at recruitment@nafa.org. And I also hope that everyone has a great week.
Perfect. Thank you.
Much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.